Hello, hi, and welcome again to the Terminal Podcast, where in the end, it's all about the numbers. This is a show about baseball, when in season, and even after celebrating Benito Juarez's victory over the French in 1862, it is not always baseball season. I'm your host, and we are broadcasting high above Civic Center Station in downtown Atlanta. And tonight, two THS grads will talk about sporting relics, the NBA playoffs, and bad sports films. Chris, so I need to know, what outfit did you pull out of your closet for the Kentucky Derby?
Well, I had a very nice Walter Hagen golf shirt. Um, I believe it was black, and I had some gray shorts because I was out on the golf course during the Kentucky Derby.
Oh,
So
okay. So celebrating as with the grass and the horses and everything like
yes,
that. That makes sense. So when you came back in, did you watch I know the Derby was on then in the clubhouse, right? It had to have been. That's sort of where that's
when we
built
were
for.
done, we were done right at sunset. We were done at like 7:30, and we walked. I walked straight off the 18th green right to my car. So
All right. So then you missed the two
I
minutes.
missed it. Missed it.
Well, so, but you must admit at one point in sports that was appointment viewing. I mean, it still is considered appointment viewing. I mean, it's 2 minutes, but no, or am I wrong on this? I mean,
It
it
was.
was
It
one of those
was.
things. It's not anymore, in your
Yeah, I
opinion,
don't know why. I don't know where it went. I don't know. And I was a person who watched it in my younger days. I don't.
even though you're not a big horse racing
No,
fan.
I don't like the horses. I don't play the ponies. Yeah, you know what? It was actually just bringing that up. This past weekend was an excellent weekend for, if you want to call them secondary sports or tertiary sports. I don't even know what you want to call them, but that had a
Mm.
photo finish. The NASCAR race had the closest finish they've had in like 30 years. The Grand Prix of Miami, the guy who wins all the races was actually upset in the Formula One race. What's the guy's name? I can't think of it. He wins. He
You're
wins.
asking the wrong person,
Max
Max.
Verstappen. I'm sorry.
There you
He
go.
legitimately wins like 95% of
No,
the race.
I understand what you're saying.
And he was upset at the Miami Grand Prix.
Hence
So for
why I had
those
it.
sports, it was actually a really good weekend for those tertiary sports,
But
if you will.
it's interesting you said the NASCAR race, but it's like I feel like NASCAR, the same way NASCAR has Daytona. It's like they've got the one race where you're supposed to, as I view it almost as if I was a national sports columnist, you had that position. These are some of the events that you would say, as an American sports columnist, I need to have covered the Daytona 500. I to be
Right.
able to say as a true American, and the Kentucky Derby is one of those events. And Daytona is and stuff like that. But as you're saying, it's now become whereas the heavyweight championship prize fight would have been a must event, must see, stop the presses kind of event in the 20th century. That's not come along with us into the 21st century. The Kentucky Derby is not come along with us in the 21st century. Are there what other I mean, like, I guess the real question is, and NBC is begging to find out, are the Olympics going to come along with us in the 21st century?
No, no. I think you're nailing all the sporting events, and I think about it in this context. You're talking about like as a columnist, as a newspaperman, which you are through and through, and always have always been. The two people who we fake model ourselves after, Tony Kornheiser and Mike Wilbon, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
basically.
even today, today, I don't mean specifically today, but like today, when you watch their show, they talk about these old relics. They covered all of those. They
Hmm.
covered Indianapolis, Daytona, Kentucky Derby, Olympics. They were there in 1988 when what was his? Wasn't Riddick Bowe like late for a boxing match in Seoul, South Korea, like the gold medal match? Like he got to the
Oh,
arena late. Like and so like when I hear when they get into talking about that stuff, it's so fantastic because they did cover all those events as well as Stanley Cups and Super Bowls and Major League Baseball All-Star games and
and
obviously all that.
random, yeah,
But
and
then they covered all these other events that you're talking about. And right, why are those things washed away from the national landscape? It's an interesting question. I don't know if we can answer it here, but I wonder if maybe there's an
it's
author out there that's tackling
well,
that subject, or
well, it's
maybe
not even that, or has it altered? Like you mentioned the F1 race with that was in Miami. That's a Grand Prix. There is is that something that now is kind of coming into the loop on it?
That
golf
is,
is
I tell you what. I mean, I don't know that in even in the national media, the Miami race is huge.
yeah.
It is
I'm
huge.
it's taking over city streets. It's like an
Yeah,
entire that's now dedicated to
I know
just
people from here in New Jersey who have gone down to it and love it and go down like every year.
okay. So then so that is something that's so that's what I'm
Mm,
saying. It like in my opinion, I've never been a fan of golf, but I understand the importance of the Masters. I understand, of the big four and everything like that. But so that's seemingly going to continue on. Like that is a what would you say? I get so stuck trying to add the THIR tertiary, a
tertiary.
second a tertiary sport like golf, in my opinion, professional
Yeah.
golf is that's going to continue and survive, or is professional soccer in some form or fashion going, like, not necessarily, well, the World Cup, would one argue that the World Cup is a sport that is going to become something that is now, but since it's, especially because in a couple of years it'll be here,
Mm.
so it'll be a lot different seeing how it's being here. That's almost like an Olympics, so what I mean, like, is that's a different, how much of it, how different is that from being that tertiary, I still was gonna mess that word up, as a word, as something that brings everyone to the screen. That's really what I mean. That's it's those kind of what those kind of sporting moments, like, here's the question: the the Oscars are considered a moment where everybody in America kind of comes to go and see the Oscars. The Grammys were kind of like that, but are they like that anymore? I mean, like, those are kind of events where it didn't matter what anybody did or something like that. People would pay attention. March Madness is that way
Mm.
because it's just because it's March Madness, and my ex is telling me how there's side tournaments inside of other offices that have nothing to do with the tournament, but it's
Mm.
based on it, so it's around March, so it's part of that. So yeah, I mean, so that's going to stay alive in that sense, which will keep men's college basketball alive just purely off of that. But I mean, and it's sad, but either way, whatever happens with all this stuff, like, it's something like that that's going to keep it alive in some form or fashion, because it's part of what the American mental sports aggregate is. I mean, this is part of what we do as sport, is we have this at this point of the year. You know what I mean? Like, season wise.
Yeah, you know what, I just as you were saying that, I started thinking of the gambling aspect when you were talking about like the March
That's
Madness
the other part of it all.
and maybe, and this is a total theory just thrown out there. Maybe that because the horse races, the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, the Triple Crown, the Belmont, was like something everyone could bet on, right? Or something everyone
Mm-hmm.
did bet on. But nowadays, people make 400 bets a day.
Yeah, you can bet on anything.
So maybe it's not that unique an event because it was like a gambling thing. Even if you didn't know anything about gambling, you would put monies. Oh, this horse is 10-1, whatever. But like, again, I can roll over in the middle of the night and bet on something.
So it's possible that it is the gambling on it. Well,
Well, that the gambling is no longer a what's the word I'm looking for? It's not unique to that. It's not the
yes,
novelty.
the novelty of it, where that is the only thing where it was okay to gamble on, because horse racing, even before, horse racing was the one thing you could go and gamble on
Right.
freely. No one would question it or anything like that. And so, yeah, all right. Well, I'm going to transition into NBC is gambling big. See how that works. Gambling big on paying a lot of money to try and retract the rights, retract them. Can we use that in that term? Basically, it goes like this: Round Ball Rock by John Tesh is music to a large of us, that you hear it and you just think basketball. There's a Kevin Hart commercial right now where it's the music that's going on in his head. You can almost hear it now. I'm moving back and forth, but you can't see me. So, but you have that John Tesh instrumental when you think of the NBA on television. And it was the NBA on NBC during the 90s that transitioned the league from being on tape delay in the finals to Magic and Larry and the Pistons to the beginning of the Jordan years. And then it became the annual which was really the Bulls intro theme, but that became part of the musical lore that is professional basketball. So, as we're talking basketball and music, Chris, what was the music that the Highwaymen came out to when I did the high school intros way back when, back in Jersey when I was doing the high school intros for the Teaneck High School senior was it senior year and junior year? Did I do it 2 years or just one? I know it was senior year. I thought I did it
Here's
anything.
going to be my guess, only because I remember we did a senior video and we put
Yeah.
basketball highlights to this song.
Hmm.
And maybe we not stole it, but used it because it was the song that you used. And we put the highlights of the basketball team to the song "Freak It" by Das FX.
Now, you know what? As a former THS alum that was part of that group, that would make sense
Exactly.
that you would have that come out to that song. So speaking of the 90s and random things like that, do you I mean, you obviously have no say in this, but where do you think the NBA is going to end up? I mean, you kind of have an idea of what's going on here, right? Or am I
Yeah,
the
I
one
mean,
that's
listen, NBC is making the push for it, and they're gonna tie in the streaming on Peacock, and um, that's the big thing the NBA is looking for is the streaming tie-in. But it sounds like a return to NBC is pretty likely, and you have to get the music back. Right now, Fox owns that music because they play it for college basketball, and when they do, I want to throw my shoe at the television.
yeah, it's I remember that. So the question that I posed to you then, if that does happen and ESPN still gets their cut and Amazon apparently is getting a cut as well, is the end of the NBA on TNT a bad thing, or is it just something that NBC and the cast and pals are likely to just sort of inherently push over in some form to whatever they're trying to do? You,
Well, two things. One, Ernie Johnson is kind of, I don't know if it's publicly or maybe there's been rumors. He said he will stay with TNT.
yeah, I was see
I
EJ's
mean, he's a
sticking
loyal
around.
TNT person. He's a Turner guy, he's
Well,
an Atlanta guy. His dad worked for, I mean,
and he's already been. They have him as the host of other events. Like he's the
right.
host on NHL. He's the host on
Mm.
NCAA when they have that. So he's working. He's not. He's not
No, no,
worried
no,
about it.
right. No, no, yeah. Ernie Johnson's doing okay. He's not worried about his grocery bill this month. I
Yeah.
get it. But people will say, well, just bring Charles, Kenny, and Shaq, and I think they'll whore themselves out for whoever will pay the money. They don't really have like loyalty to TNT, especially if it's not going to have basketball.
Yeah.
However, I think Ernie Johnson is a key component
Yeah.
to that show. I really do. He's the glue that binds that foursome together. The other thing, and maybe this is me just thinking too hard about it, thinking NBC is network television. TNT still cable, and
Yeah.
like the NBC executive producers have to let Charles be Charles.
Okay. Well, I guess the thought being that Charles would be Charles. You're right. EJ is not gonna if NBC gets the NBA, Ernie Johnson is staying with TNT. The other three might come to NBC because I want
That's
to
what I'm
say
saying. They'll
Charles.
go. They don't
Yeah,
care.
they'll
NBC will
because
pay them whatever they want.
I'm. Would you not like to get paid to watch basketball as a
No,
former
no, no. I'm
basketball?
not.
I
No,
mean,
I'm just
yeah,
saying. I
no,
think
I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying, but it would be those two or three with some other, combination and stuff like that. But Charles would be the reason to go to Peacock. Is what you would have him on that streaming side where you could let Charles be Charles because you could see him on NBC and he could calm down and breathe down. You know, what I mean, if it meant being on because he I mean, for the national game, that's the whole thing to get
you think
because
Charles Barkley gives a shit.
I think Charles Barkley would like to be on the sideline for a finals, and he would understand he would have to. No, you don't think so? All right.
No.
Well, well, at this point, I'll use this opportunity to take a break and hear from a potential promotional opportunity, and I'll stumble that over a couple of times as we start here.
Since 1994, one name has echoed through the courts, fields, and arenas of New Jersey: Jersey Sporting News. As a credentialed media outlet with over 25 years of experience, we've earned accolades from those we cover at every level. Jersey Sporting News, celebrating New Jersey sports for over 2 decades, and we're just getting started. Let JSN become a member of your family.
And we're back at the terminal. And yes, your luggage will eventually make it off the tarmac. Just show some patience. Um, I'm out of where I was, but oh no, here I am. Yeah, like 50. So here we go. Trial by Content, which is another podcast, did a 3-week best baseball movie podcast series that I had, unfortunate to me, had listened to because there weren't baseball fans. They're just movie fans, which is fine. But it's just to hear non-baseball fans talking about the best baseball movies is just kind of infuriating because they broke it down to their final four and their fans voted on it. But the final four were The Sandlot, A League of Their Own, Moneyball, and Bull Durham. And there are in the 3 shows they mentioned a lot of different movies, baseball movies obviously, and it's hard, but it was hard for me to stick around after Major League was quickly eliminated. So the easiest question is, and that's not a bad four, I guess, but Chris, what's your favorite baseball movie?
Uh, everyone that you've mentioned so far are terrific films. And then there's also Field of Dreams.
Everybody's I'm not the biggest. See, I don't even consider Field of Dreams a baseball movie. It's more of
Interesting.
it's
I wouldn't totally disagree with you.
I mean, because it's really baseball. Yeah, it's there's no. I mean, the easy argument is the concept of the baseball is more about the connection between what connects the son and the father, not really
Right.
baseball. You know, what I mean, it's not that. Whereas, but but dot dot dot.
and then
Yeah,
there's 8 Men Out.
look,
Just
I mean, and
freaking
yeah,
good.
it becomes a whole question of is between what's between the historical and the fictional baseball, and you know.
So you're asking me what's my favorite, but I'm also gonna go with it as the best, not because it's my favorite, and it's not my favorite because it's the best. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Did I
Go
just
ahead.
talk in a complete circle?
No, I understand what you're
And
saying.
why the 4 on there aren't the correct answer for the
Okay.
best. The best is Major League, and here's why. What movie do you consistently quote the most with different quotes? And it's Major League for me.
Oh, yeah. You're asking me? It's gonna say
No, I'm just saying that, like, in
yes, yeah.
general, like
Oh,
everyone quotes "You're Killing Me, Smalls," but nothing else from The Sandlot. And The Sandlot's
yeah.
a great movie. Don't get me wrong, right?
Mhm.
From Bull Durham, everybody calls everybody meat, but you don't quote any other lines.
Yeah, no.
You know, on a consistent basis.
Well,
I quote Moneyball. It's not a funny quote, so it's not. But how can you not be romantic about baseball, right? I mean,
I do quote if I can find a place, which is candlesticks. Candlesticks is a good gift. Maybe they got a registry or something like that.
yeah,
We can give her something
no,
like
for
that.
Bull
All
Durham,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, for Bull Durham. I was
And
gonna
the
say,
League of
all
Their
right,
Own, I always quote. I quote, "Still will like the lineup," when he's shaking the kid, and the kid had shoved the lineup in his face.
yes. I mean, a League of Their Own is there are other things like that, but it's like, yeah, no, there's it's but yes, sorry, you're going into baseball movies and it's just like that. But the one thing that all saying that is a lot of these movies are modern movies because the original Bad News Bears is off that list. It seems like it's been left off. It wasn't, it might have been considered, but it was like it wasn't a true consideration. And that was the pinnacle of baseball films for a long time. And it's just,
Absolutely,
it's seemingly is just
a,
gone.
a terrible remake ruins the original
I
film in a way, though.
and I don't even consider it, and it's sad. And it's I mean,
You know what I mean, though, because
yes, yes,
there's some people that their first Bad News Bears experience was the
is
remake, and you're
yeah,
just like, no,
yeah.
you shouldn't have that Men in Black thing where they erase your memory.
Yeah, it's you. Well, and the thing about it is though, because then it becomes, can you even show the original? I mean, like, because Tatum O'Neal was. It's funny because both Bad News Bears have an Oscar, Academy Award winning actor in it, and one is Billy Bob Thornton, and the other one is Tatum O'Neal because she wins one for Paper Moon, which is a whole separate story. So those older
Walter
films
Matthau
like
never won an Academy Award. Maybe
hmm?
not. Walter Matthau never won an
No,
Academy.
he's probably got. I want to say he's probably got a Emmy,
An Emmy,
but
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, no, no,
not
I
necessarily.
mean Walter Matthau is a great actor. Even if he didn't win
Oh,
an award,
without question, without
we're not
question. But
questioning Walter Matthau's resume.
we're talking about older films like that, and like,
Remember when Baseball
ugh,
Tonight used to do the commercials from the baseball movies?
no.
You know,
See, you
oh, it
say
was like
that.
right in like the mid to late '90s. There was the one where they're on the bus in Bull Durham, and like Harold Reynolds was playing the guitar, and he's like, "I made it to the show once." And there was the one with Kelly Leak from Bad News Bears. There was the one where Peter Gammons, I think Peter Gammons does the Kevin Costner speech from Bull Durham about like I like long, soft, wet kisses that last 3 days. I believe the DH should be outlawed. There was like a whole set of like Baseball Tonight commercials with all these. Oh, they were so good.
I can imagine
I've
that, but
not been
it's
able to find them on the interwebs.
see, and you can find the old Sports Center ads, which is
Yes, which
another
I do
part of our,
sometimes get into a rabbit hole.
and it's I guess it's another part of, and it's we're now the watchers of the old era of sports movies like we're talking about. So how do we explain to them atrocities like Any Given Sunday as being part of the movies that we watched? And a lot of people apparently at some point seemed to think was good, but I don't know why or anything like that. But please explain Any Given Sunday. For those that don't know, Any Given Sunday is
Terrible. The problem with football movies, and they've never really been able to solve this, and even in one of my favorite football movies, I can't think of the name of it, Varsity Blues, which I love,
yeah.
and Remember the Titans, which is a great film. Every touchdown or play that they show has to be the most dramatic play of all time. Like sometimes the guy just runs it in from 1 yard away and he just pounds into the pile and falls into the end zone.
But
You know what I
that's not,
mean?
yeah, no, I know what you're saying, but
You
that's
don't have
not
to jump
worthy
over
of,
three guys, spin around a guy, kick a guy in the face,
well,
smack his
if
mom in the stands and then score the touchdown.
if you're gonna mention that, then I did put this in the notes, then you're only
You,
making me think of The Last Boy Scout,
but
where
to me, that's
Jimmy
not a football movie. I mean, it's got
see,
football
now
in
that
it.
is the question, is The
Yeah.
Last Boy Scout a football movie? Because while it doesn't deal with it, it deals with the behind the scenes part of football. It deals the whole one of the things from the Last Boy Scout that I always remember is the guy who's driving in the parking lot who yells free agency ruined the damn game. And
Yes.
and it's like that speaks straight to it, because you hear that now on sports talk radio, people
Yeah.
talking about how free agency ruined the damn game. That's David Wayans playing a quarterback working with a dead working with Bruce Willis. If you haven't seen The Last Boy Scout, it's
He's a
it
washed
is
up quarterback.
uh
What does the guy say
just
before
looking
he
for a
shoots
spot.
himself?
That's a good question. Oh, oh my gosh, because he shoots himself right in the middle of the field and goes, isn't life isn't life something like that? And then he just
Ain't
pulls
life
the
a
trigger.
bitch?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That's the
Yeah,
opening scene.
that is the kind of film that is the legacy. That's a legacy I'm happy to leave as far as I'm concerned, and I'm gonna use that as a great place to close, because as we said, Damon Wayne, Jimmy Dukes was on a horse on that, because he throws from a horse a football pass from a horse to hit a senator in the nose before he can get shot, which
Yeah.
shows you the kind of arm he had, which is why he should have been in the league. But since we're talking about horses, let's close with the Highwaymen, which we also mentioned before. The mascot for Teaneck High School, our high school, it could have been named for Route 4, which ran like literally Route 4's here and the high school's right there. The the high school itself, though, is the Castle on the Hill. That was the mascot, so maybe it was that. But Highwaymen by definition, is a man typically on horseback who held up travelers at gunpoint in order to rob them, which robbed us of our youth. But in 2019, Kevin Costner and Woody Harrelson, because we were talking about bad films, starred in a film by the same name, The Highwaymen. The highwayman's plot is two former Texas Rangers who attempt to track down and apprehend notorious criminals Bonnie and Clyde of the 1930s. It premiered at South by Southwest, didn't last long in theaters, and can be found on Netflix. According to Wikipedia, what was the budget for this film?
Yeah, come on. I have no idea.
Well, if it was going to be easy, why would I build up and go all
What's
the way
it? There's
around with it?
easy. There's easy, and then there's just downright. Like, what's the budget of a movie that nobody ever saw?
Well, it had to be. It's got to be worth something, obviously.
What's
If
its?
it was, it had Woody Harrelson and Kevin Costner in it.
I've never heard of it.
Woody Harrelson, Kevin Costner, 2019.
No, I heard what you said.
I know, I know, but I'm saying,
Um,
but those are two big enough names that if if
I'm going to say $34 million. I have no
30
idea.
$34 million
It's got a
is
Rotten Tomatoes of 58%, which is way higher than I thought it would.
$34 million is the number. The trivia answer will be in the description for the next episode. I'd like to thank our potential, going to keep stumbling over this, potential promotional partner, Jersey Sporting News. I'd also like to thank Chris for stopping by and wish him and everyone else listening to the terminal safe travels home. Good night.